Hi friends, welcome to Talevora. Today, we uncover the extraordinary life of Mother Teresa, the woman who gave up comfort, wealth, and a peaceful life to serve those who had absolutely nothing. How did an ordinary young girl become one of the most respected humanitarians in history? What inspired her to dedicate her entire life to the poor? And what legacy did she leave behind that continues to inspire millions today? This is not just the story of a nun. It is the unforgettable journey of compassion, courage, sacrifice, and a woman who changed the world through love. Let's begin. Mother Teresa was one of the most respected women in modern history. Across the world, people knew her as a symbol of compassion, kindness, and unconditional love. She spent decades caring for people whom society had forgotten: the poor, the sick, the homeless, and the dying. To millions, she became a living example that even one person could make an extraordinary difference. But long before the world called her Mother Teresa, she was simply a little girl named Agnes, growing up with ordinary dreams in a small European town. Agnes Bojaxiu was born on August 26, 1910, in Skopje, which was then part of the Ottoman Empire and is now the capital of North Macedonia. She belonged to a close-knit Albanian Catholic family. Her father, Nikola Bojaxiu, was a successful businessman who was deeply involved in community service and local politics. Her mother, Drana, was a gentle and deeply religious woman who believed that helping others was one of life's greatest responsibilities. From a very young age, Agnes watched her mother open the family home to strangers who had nowhere else to go. Poor families were often invited inside for meals. Hungry children were never turned away. Her mother would always remind her children, "Never eat a single mouthful unless you are sharing it with someone else." Those simple words stayed with Agnes for the rest of her life. When Agnes was only 8 years old, tragedy struck the family. Her father suddenly became ill and passed away unexpectedly. His death left the family heartbroken and facing serious financial difficulties. Agnes watched her strong mother struggle to support the family alone while continuing to help people who were even less fortunate than themselves. Instead of becoming bitter, Drana became even more generous. Watching her mother's strength taught Agnes one of the greatest lessons of her life: that kindness should never depend on wealth. As Agnes grew older, her faith became stronger. She loved attending church, singing in the choir, and participating in charitable activities. Missionaries visiting her church often shared stories about helping poor communities in distant countries. Agnes listened carefully to every story. She became fascinated by the idea of dedicating her life to serving people she had never even met. By the age of 12, Agnes felt something she later described as a calling from God. She believed her purpose in life was not to seek comfort or success but to serve humanity. While many girls her age dreamed about careers or marriage, Agnes quietly dreamed of becoming a missionary. At 18 years old, she made one of the most difficult decisions of her life. She left her home forever to join the Sisters of Loreto, a religious order based in Ireland that sent missionaries to India. Saying goodbye to her mother and siblings was heartbreaking. None of them knew they would never see each other again. Her mother hugged her tightly and gave her one final piece of advice: put your hand in God's hand and never look back. After arriving in Ireland, Agnes began learning English because it would be the language she would use while teaching in India. Although she was excited about her new journey, she often missed her family deeply. Everything around her was unfamiliar: the weather, the language, and the culture. Yet she remained determined because she believed she was following the path she had been called to walk. Only a few months later, Agnes traveled by ship to India. After a long journey across the sea, she finally arrived in Kolkata, then known as Calcutta. The city was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was crowded, colorful, noisy, and filled with both incredible beauty and heartbreaking poverty. Wealthy neighborhoods stood only a short distance away from people living without food, clean water, or medical care. Agnes officially became Sister Teresa, choosing her new name in honor of Saint Therese of Lisieux. She was assigned to teach geography and history at St. Mary's School, a school for girls. Her students admired her calm personality, gentle smile, and dedication. She loved teaching and spent nearly 20 years helping young girls receive an education. From the classroom windows, however, Sister Teresa could see something that disturbed her every day. Just beyond the school walls were families living in extreme poverty. Children wandered the streets barefoot. Sick people lay on sidewalks without anyone to care for them. Mothers struggled to feed their babies. The contrast between the safety of the school and the suffering outside became impossible for her to ignore. Every evening, as she returned to her room, those images stayed in her mind. She prayed constantly, asking herself one question: was teaching inside a classroom enough while so many people outside were fighting simply to survive? She did not yet know it, but the answer to that question would soon change not only her own life, but the lives of millions of people around the world. Although Sister Teresa loved teaching, something inside her heart kept telling her that her true mission had not yet begun. Every day, she watched poor families struggling just outside the school walls. Children searched for food in garbage piles. Elderly people lay on the streets without anyone to care for them. Many were sick, weak, and completely forgotten by society. She could no longer ignore what she saw. Then, on September 10, 1946, while traveling by train from Kolkata to Darjeeling for a spiritual retreat, Sister Teresa experienced what she later described as a call within a call. During that journey, she felt God asking her to leave the convent and dedicate her entire life to serving the poorest of the poor. It was one of the most important moments of her life. The decision was not easy. Leaving the safety of the convent meant giving up a secure home, regular meals, and the life she had known for almost 20 years. She spent months praying and seeking permission from church leaders. Finally, in 1948, she received approval to begin her new mission. She exchanged her traditional religious habit for a simple white cotton sari with blue borders, the same style worn by poor women in India. That simple sari would later become one of the most recognizable symbols in the world. She also carried almost nothing with her, only a few clothes, a small bag, and a heart filled with determination. Before beginning her work, she received basic medical training so she could care for sick people properly. Soon afterward, she walked into the slums of Kolkata completely alone. She had no large organization behind her, no financial support, and no guarantee of success. She only believed that if she showed genuine love, people would respond. Her first classroom had no walls. She gathered poor children sitting on the ground and began teaching them using a stick to write letters in the dirt. She taught them the alphabet, basic mathematics, hygiene, and respect. Many of those children had never attended school before. At first, there were only a few students. Within weeks, more children began arriving every day. As people saw her dedication, they started offering small donations. Some gave food, while others donated medicine, blankets, or clothing. Volunteers also began joining her mission. Slowly, what had started with one woman became something much larger. Mother Teresa spent hours walking through the narrow streets of Kolkata searching for people who needed help. She found elderly men abandoned by their families, women suffering from deadly illnesses, and children with no parents to care for them. She never asked about their religion, nationality, or background. To her, every human life had equal value. One day, she found a man lying beside the road who was covered with wounds and too weak to move. Many people walked past him without stopping. Mother Teresa gently lifted him into her arms and carried him to safety. She cleaned his wounds, gave him fresh clothes, and stayed beside him until his final moments. Later, she explained that no one should die feeling unwanted or unloved. Her compassion quickly became known throughout Kolkata. More young women asked to join her work. In 195, by the late 1970s, Mother Teresa had become one of the most respected women on earth. Yet nothing about her lifestyle had changed. While world leaders traveled in luxury cars and stayed in expensive hotels, she continued wearing the same simple white sari with blue borders, sleeping in a small room, and living exactly like the people she served. She believed that if she wanted to understand the poor, she had to live as simply as they did. As her humanitarian work spread across the globe, governments, charities, and international organizations began recognizing her extraordinary efforts. In 1971, she received the Pope John XXII Peace Prize. In the years that followed, she was honored by many countries, but every award meant only one thing to her: it was another opportunity to help more people. Then, in 1979, came the moment that made history. Mother Teresa was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, one of the world's highest honors. During the award ceremony in Oslo, Norway, thousands applauded as she walked onto the stage wearing the same simple sari she wore every day. There were no expensive jewels, no glamorous outfit, and no desire for attention. Her humility impressed the entire world. Traditionally, Nobel Prize winners attended a luxurious banquet after receiving the award. Mother Teresa politely requested that the money planned for the celebration be given instead to feed the poor in India. The organizers agreed. Thousands of hungry people received food because of that single decision. It perfectly reflected the kind of person she truly was. During her Nobel Peace Prize speech, Mother Teresa reminded the world that the greatest suffering was not always hunger or disease. She said that many people suffered because they felt unwanted, unloved, and forgotten. According to her, loneliness was one of the deepest forms of poverty. Her words touched millions of hearts across different countries, cultures, and religions. Over the following years, the missionaries of charity continued expanding rapidly. New homes were opened across more than 100 countries. The sisters cared for abandoned babies, disabled children, homeless families, elderly people, AIDS patients, disaster victims, and anyone who needed help. Their mission remained exactly the same as it had been in the beginning: to serve without expecting anything in return. Despite becoming one of the most famous women in history, Mother Teresa never considered herself important. Whenever journalists praised her, she redirected the attention toward the people who were suffering. She often said that she was only doing small things with great love. Those simple words became one of her most famous messages and continue inspiring people today. As she grew older, however, her health slowly began to decline. Years of constant travel, long working hours, and physical exhaustion started affecting her body. She experienced heart problems and was hospitalized several times. Doctors advised her to rest, but she found it difficult to slow down. Even when she was weak, she continued visiting homes, encouraging volunteers, and comforting those who were suffering. In 1990, she offered to step down as the head of the Missionaries of Charity because she believed someone younger should lead the organization. However, the sisters voted almost unanimously for her to remain. They believed her leadership, humility, and compassion could never be replaced. She continued serving despite her failing health. Finally, on September 5, 1997, Mother Teresa passed away in Kolkata at the age of 87. The news spread around the world within hours. Presidents, prime ministers, religious leaders, and ordinary people all expressed their sorrow. Millions mourned the woman who had dedicated nearly 50 years to helping those whom society had forgotten. India honored her with a state funeral, one of the country's highest tributes. thousands gathered along the streets to say goodbye. People from every religion, nationality, and background stood together in silence, proving that her message of compassion had united humanity beyond all differences. Even after her passing, her mission did not end. The missionaries of charity continued serving in countries around the world, following the same principles she had established decades earlier. Today, thousands of sisters and volunteers continue caring for the poor, the homeless, the sick, and abandoned children exactly as Mother Teresa once did. In 2016, the Catholic Church officially declared her a saint, and she became known as Saint Teresa of Calcutta. For millions of people, however, she had already been a saint through her actions long before any official recognition. Her greatest achievement was never the Nobel Peace Prize, the international awards, or worldwide fame. Her greatest achievement was restoring hope to countless people who believed the world had forgotten them. Mother Teresa proved that changing the world does not always require wealth, power, or influence. Sometimes it begins with a single act of kindness, a helping hand, or simply showing someone that they are loved. Her life reminds us that true greatness is measured not by what we own, but by how many lives we touch. Today, decades after her passing, Mother Teresa remains one of history's brightest examples of compassion and selfless service. Her story continues to inspire millions to choose kindness over hatred, love over indifference, and service over comfort. If you enjoyed this true story, don't forget to subscribe to Talevora for more unforgettable journeys through history. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.